Okay, guys, so I just want this to be a short video on what is a good salary in your country. And obviously, there's 200 countries in the world, and those are vastly different realities. I've been to 40 of those around 200 countries, and I've lived in six. I also really like talking about this, so I do think that I have a good knowledge in general of what like a bare minimum wage is, a good wage is, and an excellent wage is. But fundamentally it is subjective, and so if you're from any country whatsoever, and you want to tell me what you think it is actually more accurate, or like if I made a mistake or something, please do tell me in the comments. I would love hearing it. But this is a comparison I made. So first I divided countries in tiers, from S to F. F are like the poorest countries, so like some sub-Saharan African country like Congo or something like that. E is like India, it's like Vietnam, it's like lower wage countries. D is like slightly better countries, so like Albania or Turkey or Mexico or Brazil. Maybe Mexico could be put on the C tier, it depends. C are like the not so good European countries, so Poland, Portugal. I put Italy here, but it's like probably in between the C and B tiers. B are like the big three in Europe, so UK, Germany, France. There's a few other countries in Europe that would also go into B tier. I think Ireland would be like in between B and A, probably more close to B. Yeah, there. It depends on like subjective analysis, right? Tier A would be Australia, Canada, the Netherlands, the Nordics. I think maybe Finland is an exception in the Nordics, in that I would put it in the B tier, but most of the Nordics would definitely be A tier, with maybe Norway, maybe Iceland also being in the S tier, but I think they're still A tier. And then the S tier are the countries where you get paid the most in the world. And where salaries are higher. Now, this is not a judgment call. Like, I'm not saying that S tier countries are better than B tier countries and that you should move there or anything. It's just like in terms of salaries, the salaries there are objectively better. They just are, and you do with that what you want. So in the S tier, it's the US, which is pretty much where you get the highest salaries in the world. Switzerland, Luxembourg, and I put Singapore here as well. Uh, Again, I'm open to questioning, or like questioning my methods or something. If you want to talk in the comments, let's talk in the comments. So the bare minimum. Bare minimum isn't the minimum wage in the country necessarily. It could be higher, could be even lower, but what it shows is like the bare minimum to have like some sort of life there. Now, it isn't exactly the bare minimum because, for example, for tier A, there's Australia, and I'm saying 3,000 US dollars per month, which is around 5,000 Australian dollars. But I live in Melbourne right now with like 2,000 Australian dollars per month. But I'm a real exception because I'm a 24-year-old dude sharing a house in like a really, really far off suburb, having a hour and a half commute. Like, I'm not living a lifestyle that any parent or any reasonably well-off working adult would want to live. Like, I'm really living below my means, and below like what most other people would consider reasonable for Australia. So it's not that it's impossible to live lower than the bare minimum. It's just that it's really, really not desirable. And yeah, especially you might like if you earn less than that, you might not be able to save any money, which is not ideal. Like, I'm living like this, and I'm living on lower than that. I'm living on like half that, like around 1,500 maybe US dollars a month. But I'm doing that because I want to save money, and so I've been saving money. But yeah, anyway, in the S tier, I think if you're US, Switzerland, etc., bare minimum would be around $3,000. In Switzerland, maybe a little more. In the US, maybe a little less. But yeah, it would be around $3,000. I don't think it changes from tier S to tier A because countries in tier A are more egalitarian, and so the bare minimum for them is still like a reasonably well off wage. I don't think if you go to like Copenhagen or Oslo or Vancouver or Melbourne, you're gonna get like a wage that's much lower than 3,000 US dollars per month. It might be slightly less. I think the minimum wage in Australia might be around 2,500 US dollars per month as of 2025, but it's close to it, right? So around $3,000. Going down, we get to 2,000 US dollars in France, Germany, and the UK. That's round about what the minimum wage would be in those countries. Maybe a little lower, maybe a little higher, depending on the country, but you get the general idea. In countries like Portugal, Poland, Italy, the bare minimum would be $1,000. In Italy, more realistically, it would be a little more, like 1,200, like 1,200 euros, something like that. In Brazil, Mexico, etc., around $500. Some could argue. I would love to hear a Mexican perspective on this. Like, do you think 500 is a good? Because I've never been to Mexico. I've talked to a lot of Mexicans, but I do want to know what you guys think. And then, yeah, lower than that, that would be still around 500, like maybe a little lower, maybe 400, 300. And then in the poorest countries, there's no bare minimum. Like, you're literally just, starving. And that's terrible to say, but it is a reality. Onto a good wage. I think a good wage in the US, in Switzerland, in like a top tier country, would be around $8,000 a month, which is pretty much six figures a year, right? It's what everyone talks about. And I think the move in the last 10, 15 years was that uh, 15 years ago, six figures was an excellent salary, and now it's a good salary. I think that's like the main change that was moved, like in the US, for example. But it's still like you could live anywhere in the world with $8,000 a month. I don't want to hear you like you can live anywhere in the world reasonably well off, even New York City, even Melbourne, even Sydney, even I don't know, SF, and you like can have a decent life. Maybe not a great life, but a decent life. Yeah, following up in tier A, I would put it around at $5,000. I hear in Australia, a lot of people talk about making 100K a year, which in USD is around 5,000 USD a month, like around 60 grand USD a month is more or less 100K AUD a month, depending on the exchange rate, and that is like what people consider like a good salary. And same thing happened. Like I think back in the day, 100K AUD was like an excellent salary, and now it's just a good salary where you get by. UK, Germany, France, I do think it's a little lower. I think if you're pulling out like around like 40,000 pounds a year, or like if you're in Germany, France, around 50,000 euros a year, you're doing reasonably decent in those countries. In Portugal, Poland, Italy, 3,000 is already like a really good wage. Um, Again, maybe even lower than that. I know a lot of people in Italy, and some people would even say like the 2 or 2.5 is already like a good wage, but I'm pulling it up to 3. Maybe it might be like a little higher in some of those countries, a little lower in some other countries. And again, like the bare minimum, maybe the bare minimum wouldn't be 1,000, maybe it would be like 1.2 or 1.3. But yeah, you do with that what you'd like. In tier D, it'd be around $2,000 for the good wage. Tier E, it'd be around $1,000 for a good wage, and in tier F, it'd be like, let's call it $500. Again, tier F, you're in the poorest countries. If you're making some money, it's you're probably better off than a lot of other people. And one note on the tier D here, I think maybe it could be 2,000, but it could also be like 1.5. So I'm not sure. It'd be like between 1.5 and 2, depending on what you consider a good wage. Like if you go to Brazil, I would say that like 1.5K USD a month is a good wage. It's not a great wage, but like you couldn't say that it's not a good wage. And then going to excellent, top tier, $15,000 a month. If you're making 15,000 US dollars a month, no matter where you live in this whole wide world, you could be living in the center of Zurich, you're still well off. Like I know you'll be paying a lot in rent and all that, but like you cannot say if you're making 15,000 USD a month that you're not well off. All right, like that's it. And tier I would consider quite a bit lower. It would be around $10,000 a month, which, for example, here in Australia, it's around 200,000 Australian dollars a year. I think like that is an excellent wage in Australia. Like I don't think any Aussies would say otherwise. Like that's like a doctor level wage, or I mean, doctors make a bit more, but still, like it's a really, really good wage. And I think for most of the other countries in the A tier as well. In the B tier, slightly lower. I put around like round about the six figures would be like considered like an excellent salary. In the C tier, it drops quite a bit. It's around 5,000. In the D tier, I put 4,000, which is reasonably accurate, I think, out of like my experience and what I've talked to people from those countries. Tier E, I put a little less, 3,000, and tier F, I put like 2,000. So yeah, it ranges from zero, or more realistically from like 500 to 15,000. If you're making more than 50,000, you're definitely well off. And one extra note here, like it's obvious, and I hope everyone understands that, like, if you're in the top tier, like if you're in the US, it doesn't mean that no one makes more than $50,000. Like there's a lot of people who make $15,000 a day, like so obviously there's a lot of people who make a lot more money than all this. Uh, and the same goes for like every tier. So like you could go to Brazil and you could meet someone that's making $100,000 a month. Like it's 100% possible. I've even met people who did $100,000 a month. It's just that it's not even in the excellent tier anymore. It's just like they're clearly an outlier, like so wage and income just like keeps growing indefinitely. Like if you're an entrepreneur, if you have your business, if you have the right structures in place, you could be living pretty much anywhere and be making an insane amount of money. And there's rich people literally in every country in the world, and those rich people are making much, much more than even what I put as excellent in the S tier. But this is for a lower to middle to upper middle class framework. Obviously, again, it doesn't involve the elite. But yeah, I'd love to see and to know what you guys consider, what you guys think. So write me in the comments below, and we will start some fun conversations. All right, see you around.